Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's episode of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the fighting continues. Today, we can report that the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue offensive operations throughout the area of operations. We will first start in the southern operation zone, the southeast operation zone, where we have seen a very recent operation by the Tigrayan Defense Forces to the west of Korem. This operation looks to push back into the Amhara region and appears, at least right now, to be working with local allies, local allied forces, with the objective of seizing control of the town of Sokoto, or re-seizing the town of Sokoto. And what we're quite possibly looking at is the creation of further buffer zones to remove any sort of threat in which we could see Amhara regional militias make a move on Korem, coming from the west towards Sokoto and other areas in the northern Amhara region, again focused on an operation towards Korem. But again, it would appear that Tigrayan Defense Forces have crossed the Amhara-Tigrayan border in conjunction with localized allied forces, the Agu Liberation Front forces as well, supporting the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and at least initial reports are claiming that the town of Sokoto has in fact been retaken by Tigrayan Defense Forces in conjunction with localized allied fighters. And again, this operation would appear to be in limited scope with the intent of taking control of areas to the west of Korem and preventing any sort of operation along this roadway that would lead towards the town of Korem coming from the west. But again, it does appear that it is a operation. It does appear that the operation was, at least on the surface, on the initial stages, has been successful. It is reported that at least allied forces to the Tigrayan Defense Forces have entered the town of Sokoto, and the TDF continued to operate in this area where my cursor is circling. In other news, I talked about yesterday that the forces of the Tigrayan army continue to cross the Tikizi River with the goal of continuing operations in Western Tigray, and at some point broadening its operational scope in the Western Tigray area. And we can report that these operations continue. It would appear that it is a multi-pronged operation, again with company-sized elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces pressing into Western Tigray from multiple routes of advance, with the stated goal, or the reported goal, of possibly eventually seizing the town of Adi Ramitz. And that would open up a possible corridor and give the Tigrayan Defense Forces the ability to continue to push from Adi Ramitz towards the town of Humora, and eventually quite possibly meet up with additional Tigrayan forces that are located across the border in Sudan. So again, we're seeing these forces of the TDF infiltrate and operate from Adi Arke, pressing west deeper into Western Tigray, and at the same time we're seeing forces more in the centralized location of Western Tigray start to move across the border and press towards, again, Adi Ramitz. Again, these are small unit infiltration type operations. We're not seeing huge amounts of resources being pressed west of the Tigray River as of yet. But again, this would appear to be the initial stages of the operation, and in the initial stages of this operation, at least, it would appear that smaller elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to cross over into Western Tigray. With the intent on gaining additional territory. Now, could we see a larger operation at some point? It is possible. Now, with that being said, it would seem that the tactics being employed by the Tigrayan Defense Forces are designed to alleviate any sort of possible drone or airstrike threat. Again, operating in these smaller units, these smaller unit type actions with these deep penetration raids, with these infiltration units, tend to work a little better in an environment where you have active drones utilizing precision strike munitions. So again, in the past, especially in southern Tigray, we have seen some fairly large-scale operations where the Tigrayan Defense Forces act more or less as a conventional type of army in massed column formations heading south towards targets in the Amhara region. And as we know, that later in the conflict, we started to see the Turkish TB2 drone and Wing Loon drones start to become very active. So again, that all-out conventional style attack has led in some cases to the Tigrayan Defense Forces suffering casualties through the use of these advanced drone systems. Now, on the Western Front, we're seeing a bit of a different tactic being used in terms of smaller company size actions of small elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces that are continuing to cross over the Tigray River and start to operate deep inside of the Western Tigray region, looking to attack both Amhara regional militia units and, of course, targeting elements of the Eritrean army that is also operating in the Western Tigray region as well. But again, it would appear that there, at least on the surface, is a fairly concerted effort by the Tigrayan Defense Forces to start to make gains in Western Tigray. It is a operation, again, that appears to be focused on the seizure of Adi Rametz. And again, it would appear that there has been initial successes in these infiltration-style attacks that are currently underway in Western Tigray. And again, we're going to continue to watch this very, very closely. We suspect that this operation could become broader in scope, and actually we could start to see other operations in the northern Amhara region within the vicinity of Zarima and other areas as well, as the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to infiltrate in the northern Amhara region and the western Tigray region in these small unit actions that are designed to eventually put a stranglehold on western Tigray from two directions, one coming from the Tigray River and then quite possibly another coming from the border areas of Sudan. But again, that is the status of the western area of operations. Again, we're seeing another operation in southern Tigray, focused on the capture of Sokoto with allied forces. And then as well, we are continuing to see sporadic fighting near Abbala. We continue to see Afar regional forces continue to harry the Tigrayan Defense Forces within the vicinity of Abbala. In fact, we have seen Afar regional forces actually cross into the Tigray region during some very limited small unit actions that appear to be really kind of localized to the north and south of Abbala. At this point, it would appear that Afar regional forces control the town of Abbala. We have talked about some of the atrocities that have been reported out of Abbala on peoples from the Tigray region who live in Abbala, and we also continue to hear about further Tigrayan Defense Force activity operating very close to Abbala. We've heard reports that the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to harry the Afar regional forces as well, with artillery strikes just across the border, aiming at targets within the vicinity of Abbala as well. But again, we are watching very, very closely the activity near Abbala, but at the same time covering the other two areas where things are starting to heat up rather significantly. That is near Sakota, and now we're starting to see the western Tigray area of operations start to heat up as well, with a possible focused operation towards Adi Rabitz. We're going to watch that very, very closely. At some point, if the Tigrayan Defense Forces were to see Adi Rabitz, we could see an operation towards Humera and other areas after Adi Rabitz is taken, if that actually occurs. But we can confirm Tigrayan Defense Forces are very much active in Western Tigray, especially in terms of small company-sized groups that are continuing to infiltrate across the Tikizi River, and we're also waiting to see what happens with those forces of the TDF on the other side of the border with Sudan. We can anticipate that we will see an uptick in operations near the town of Homora as well. That's all we have for today. More to come very, very soon. Have a good day.